So Canelo Alvarez defeats Alfredo Angulo with a 10th round TKO in a pretty one-sided fight in which Canelo looked very impressive. Now, we all knew as soon as this fight was announced that Angulo was a fighter who was picked to make Canelo look good. Angulo's certainly no soft touch. He's a very tough guy himself, and there was the potential there for him to give Canelo serious problems with his work rate and his aggression and what have you. But we always knew that Canelo would be better suited to a guy standing right in front of him. In fact, Canelo has said that in the lead up to the fight. He said that in his previous fight with Mayweather, in his words, he said he didn't have a good dance partner. He didn't have a guy that was willing to stand and trade, and therefore he wasn't able to do his stuff. But in this fight against Angulo, we got what we expected. Angulo came forward and it gave Canelo opportunities to let his hands go, to throw those combinations. Angulo's defense was pretty terrible. And right from the opening bell, Canelo was all over Angulo. He was by far the quicker fighter, very explosive. And I think he hurt Angulo with some body shots in the first round and really intimidated Angulo from there on in. And I think it took a few rounds for Angulo to get any kind of strength back from those body shots. I think they really took it out of him. And yeah, Canelo was explosive, throwing combinations, very sharp. Overall, I would say this is the best Canelo Alvarez I've ever seen. This is definitely the best I've ever seen him. I think the extra weight did help him coming into this fight. And yes, certainly the style of Angulo also helped him. Against Mayweather, he didn't have many opportunities to let his hands go because Mayweather was so slick. But at the same time, Canelo's fought flat-footed, come-forward fighters before. And he's never thrown this amount of punches as he did against Angulo. So I think the extra weight really helped Canelo's stamina. Also the fact that he was kind of humiliated by Floyd Mayweather. And I think he probably trained even harder and worked even harder to up his game for this fight. So to me, that was the best Canelo Alvarez I've ever seen. He was faster than I've ever seen him look before. And like I say, I think the weight definitely helped him, and it helped him improve his stamina and his work rate. And even in the lead up to this fight, I was watching a lot of the training footage. I remember watching the training footage before the Mayweather fight, and Canelo looked very tired in training. He wasn't throwing explosive combinations on the pads. His sparring sessions that I saw him in, he looked flat, and he just didn't look very strong in the training footage that I saw leading up to the Floyd fight. But in the training footage leading up to this fight, he looked incredibly explosive, fast, and all that kind of stuff. So I think not having to get down to 154 or 152 in his previous fight, in this fight he came in at 155, I believe. He didn't even make weight. So I think the extra weight helped him, and he's already said before this fight that he's going to move up after the Angulo fight. He's going to move up to middleweight and try and take on the winner of Miguel Cotto against Sergio Martinez. And on what I've seen tonight, I think Canelo is going to be a pretty formidable middleweight, to be honest with you, because that kind of hand speed that he has and that explosiveness, I think it could take him a long way in the middleweight division. You know, there's definitely a lot of big guys out there at middleweight, but Canelo looked good in there tonight, man. He looked good against a guy who, yes, the style was perfect for Canelo, but I think Canelo's definitely going to be much healthier and faster and have better stamina once he moves up to 160. It's going to do him the world of good. So overall, I thought it was an excellent performance by Canelo. And in terms of the stoppage ended up in the stoppage happened in the 10th round. Some people may think it was a controversial stoppage. Alfredo Angulo didn't like it. There was no knockdowns in the fight, by the way. Angulo never went down, but he was getting hit with so many clean shots. It was ridiculous. And Angulo looked weak in the fight, but I just think it was the fact that Canelo was hitting him with so many body shots. I think it was the fact that Angulo was just overwhelmed by Canelo's speed, his accuracy, the thudding punches that were you know, hitting home every time. Very accurate shots on Angulo's chin, on the side of his head. I mean, Canelo was just hitting him with all kinds of punch. Every punch in the textbook, you know, everything but the kitchen sink. So yeah, I think the stoppage, I mean, Angulo wasn't helpless. It's not like he wasn't throwing punches back, but his trainer Virgil Hunter did say to him in between rounds, he did say, look, I ain't going to let this happen to you. So his trainer himself was on the verge of pulling Angulo out. Okay. And maybe it was a slightly premature stoppage, but to be honest with you, I only saw one winner. Yes, Canelo was slowing down a little bit as the rounds went on. He made a very fast start in this fight, which is uncharacteristic of him. But from what I saw, from Canelo's body language and whatnot, he had plenty left in the tank. He took one round off, which Angulo took. I think it might have been the 8th, which he took off. And Angulo, I think that was probably the only round of the fight that Angulo actually won. But I still feel that Canelo had plenty left in the tank. I've never seen him that energized in a fight before. And I think Angulo probably would have got stopped. I mean, you never know what would have happened for sure. Possibly Angulo might have caught up to him in the last couple rounds. You know, there was only 3 rounds to go, but I don't know. I don't think so. That's just my personal opinion. I think stoppage may be a bit premature, but we don't want to see anyone get hurt. We don't want to see anyone with brain damage and stuff like that. We don't want to see that, man. So I can't really complain too much about the stoppage. I think it was, you know, maybe slightly premature, but given the circumstances, I think it was okay. So drop your comments below. Let me know how you felt about this fight, and how do you think Canelo Alvarez is going to fare at 160? And one thing I have to say is that the better Canelo does in his career, the better it looks on Floyd Mayweather. Because a lot of people were saying that Canelo is just a hype job and this, that, and the other. Well, if he goes on to be a dominant fighter at 160 or whatever, despite the fact that the Floyd fight was at a catch weight, Canelo was happy to take that catch weight. So I think we've got to give Floyd a lot of credit. Okay, if Canelo ends up being a dominant fighter and a great champion in the future, we got to give Floyd a lot of credit. And that win will just look better and better as the years roll by if Canelo continues being successful. So I have to end on that note. But yeah, drop your comments below and let me know how you felt about this performance by Canelo, and how you think he'll do at 160 against people like Martinez or Miguel Cotto, Gennady Golovkin, Peter Quillin. There's a whole heap of guys up there at 160. Let me know how you feel Canelo would do against those guys and what you thought of this fight. So yeah, this is Hatman. I'm out.